So this is me. I'm an actress, singer, model, and TV and event hostess. And now probably many of you would say, oh my God, this girl, she's so sure of herself. She's so confident, so successful, so she knows exactly what she wants to do in her life. But truth is, guys, I didn't always look like this. I didn't always feel like this. And sometimes I still don't feel like this. Sometimes I feel like a lost and confused girl who doesn't know what she wants in her life. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you my story, the story of that girl, to which many of you, I think, may relate. But first, let me ask you some questions. How many of you knew what you wanted to be since you were kids? By a show of hands. Okay. How many of you still don't know the answer to that question? Okay. So what I just saw is a room full of doubts. And I think it's normal. You know, this society today is so fast, and we have these opportunities at our fingertips saying to be or not to be this, you know? And there's always this subconscious question in our minds saying, what if? What if I decide to be one thing, but I turn out to be many more? What if I make the wrong choices? What if I fail? What if, you know what? Kids don't care about failure. They just feel, act, and believe in their fairy tales. And I was no different from the rest of the kids. I believed in fairy tales. I was obsessed with fairy tales and cartoons. That was the truth. So naturally, when our first grade teacher asked us what we wanted to become when we grew up, I raised my hand and proudly screamed, I want to be a mermaid like Ariel! Yeah, that didn't end well. Everybody was laughing at me, convincing me that there is no way I could be a mermaid, even the teacher. You know, I had this dream which was impossible to achieve for everyone. I didn't fit in any of their labels. Other kids wanted to be lawyers, doctors, a businessman, and I was weird. I wanted to be a mermaid. So in order to fit in, I decided I would change my mind. I would force myself, and I was 7 years old. I realized I wasn't good enough for society. So I decided to be a scuba diver. Yeah, but nobody gave me a chance to speak up. You know, kids, they usually forget things like this. They just want to have fun. And I was no different from the rest of the kids. I wanted to dance and sing, and that's what I did. I did this in a local theater in musicals. But fate had other plans for me, and they come when you least expect them. One time, when I went back from school, I was informed that my mom had passed away. Nobody told me she had been sick. So the news came so unexpectedly that it crushed my personality in ways I couldn't have imagined. That was my first big punch in the face by fate. But instead of protesting, escaping from home, drinking, getting a tattoo, screaming, things which kids actually do at that age, I decided I would sit on my ass and think what had happened to me, what it meant to me. And I realized I had never truly lived before that point, that my life is starting right then. You know, I decided that I would do something different. Movies became an important part in my life, and I immersed myself in them. I didn't act as an adult. I shut the whole real world around me, and I immersed in movies. Actually, that was the TV, what it used to look like when I was a kid. So, yeah. So I watched movies all the time, and I fell in love with the characters. And I really believe they reduced my pain and solved the problems. And that was okay for some time. But when I went to high school, everything changed, and my fragile balance was lost. You see, I went to this constant verbal and mental harassment by my classmates. I had these big teeth, and I couldn't close my mouth. So I was like Bugs Bunny's hot girlfriend, but without the hot part. You know, everybody was calling me different nicknames, like Beaver, Horsey Donkey, making fake teeth of paper and putting them against their mouths, you know? And that was like my second big punch in the face by dear friend Fate. I didn't want to go to school. I felt terrible. And if I did go, I couldn't wait until the end. My classmates' behavior pushed me over my limits. I went through 5 years of being RoboCop. I wore braces. I went through dental surgery. I removed 4 of my big and healthy teeth. Yeah, I did remove them. And it was worth it. But the insults continued. So, I turned to music in my life. I was constantly listening to music. And if the music wasn't loud enough to shut their mouths and they're calling me like different names, I began to sing. And eventually, I decided to go to a music competition because I knew I had to do something more about it. I started even dreaming songs, you know? I couldn't stand there in the shadows being pressured by some kids. Can you see the picture with these big teeth? Yeah, that was me. You see any similarities to the previous one? Yeah. Well, that's me when I received the big yes. I didn't win the competition. It wasn't the best singing. But it got me the big yes of these professional people. And that yes echoed in my head so hard, I knew I had to do something more about it. And I knew I would never stop singing in my life. Can you just imagine? I just asked myself, what if I go there and sing? And I actually did it. Meanwhile, my love for movies and art became so big that I was about to put my whole education at risk by auditioning for drama school. After summer full of exams and a lot of exercising, boom, I was in NATFA, National Academy of Theater and Film Arts, the best school for wannabe actors in Bulgaria. I was going to be on stage again. I packed my bags, went to the capital, and felt that I had won. I was an actress. Nobody could take that away from me. I was going to be a star. Nothing could stop me, except the extra weight. Somehow, my body had reacted to the stress in the environment, and I gained so much weight that people would feel awkward to ask me whether I'm fat or pregnant. And above all, I couldn't understand a thing of what our professors were teaching us. Stuff like lines, stage, scene, what? In the beginning, I told you, I did musicals when I was a kid. What I thought is going to be as easy as doing acting in musicals. It's the same as acting in theater. But it wasn't. I sucked. And that was my third big punch in the face by my dear friend Faith. I was so bad, nobody would want to work with me. And I knew why. I was talented. I could get into the emotion of every role, but that was it. My technique was below average. And I was so bad that I got nearly expelled from the academy. And then something broke in me. Then I realized that I have to do something, that I wanted to quit, that I'm on the edge of my abilities, and then all these questions popping in my head. What if I'm wrong for this? What if everything I thought of myself turned out was a mistake? What if I just go home and I just leave everything? And what if this, what if that, what if this? All this driving me crazy, man. One day, yet another disappointment, yet another self-blameless. I started asking myself the question, what if, in a different way? What if I change something? What if I get my ass up, get moving, and stop being ashamed of myself, huh? What, Lorina? What's gonna happen? Okay, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know from where to start, so I had this simplest things I could think of. I began reading plays the way I used to watch movies. I went to my classmates' rehearsals and I was writing the stuff that they did right and their mistakes like they were my own. I was exercising, and I began fixing my Eastern dialect, which everyone made fun of. So all these things, all these 4 things, I kept repeating them, and all these sleepless nights, just working, and then finally, I got my first role. I got my first role, guys. My professors gave me a leading role in a play. I couldn't believe this. Everyone was surprised, especially me. The responsibility my professors gave me pushed me even further. They made me work constantly in fixing my errors, and the tougher the job was, the more persistent I was. And I was working day and night, and then I got the formula of my personal success. Work, work, work on yourself. The best homework I could ever have. Work is important. The many roles I play, the more sides of my inner self come out. The more people I meet, the more opportunities come across. With such one which brought me to like the biggest TV series in the history of Bulgarian TV. I had a leading role there. Or I never thought I would do my own stunt scene in an action movie, or shoot with a gun, or work with multiple American directors, which favorite job was to kill me in many innovative ways. Yeah. I was very good at dying. Yeah. Or by the way, through the years, I worked and voice dubbed in Bulgaria multiple characters for animated pictures. I had this dream which was impossible, but I accomplished it in a possible way. So who says I cannot be the Little Mermaid if I want, huh? And by the way, through the years, I met my best friend, and nowadays we have a band. We have concerts around the country. We have our own album out this year, our debut album. You see, after that big yes years ago on that show, I realized that just talent is not enough for me. I never stopped developing my voice, going to singing classes, singing, working, and same goes for acting. I realized I would never be the best actress in the world because there's always many roles to play, more to achieve. I'm not saying I'm less harmed of what happened to me, of all this boxing, all these punches. I have my doubts, I still have them, and I still feel very bad, and I still have punches after these ones. But you know what? It turns out that I somehow tricked myself. Because back then, when I was 7 years old in that classroom, I never thought I would become a serious person. I thought serious is reserved only for professions in which I will never fit in. But I became a devoted, concentrated, strong-willed, non-stop working woman. Because in pursuing my dream of becoming an actress, it transformed into something larger for me. It transformed into something like my own unique way of living. And I'll keep on living it as much as I can. So, what's the moral of the story? Doubts are always gonna stand in your way, guys. They'll try to trip you up, knock you to the ground, punch you in the face, push you, and sometimes they will win, yes. But here's the thing, if you constantly work on improving yourself, of becoming a better and better version of yourself and showing it out, you'll become eventually strong enough to overcome and handle these doubts. You will become the producer, the writer, the director or lead character in your own life. Why not in your own fairy tale? Thank you.